It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we begin a Wednesday. Gary, how are you?
I'm doing good. We got so much to talk about. What a busy day it was yesterday. Yeah. You've got both parties actually campaigning now, and Harris doing a solo interview. We'll get to that in just a little bit. I will say this, the Trump campaign, again, there's a 5-minute segment where they said, here's another campaign ad, and it's just 5 minutes of her talking.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. Yeah. So we'll get to all that. But we first have to hit, because I mean, this is the thing that you look at and you go, okay, you don't want collateral damage or innocent people being killed on the war on terror.
Mm-hmm.
Pager warfare.
Okay, how do you make that happen? How do you pull that off? I mean, the mainstream media, it appears sources say they were tampered with. Well, yeah, we know that much.
Wow, really?
And all of a sudden, there are defective pagers all over Lebanon, and it's for no reason.
And Syria,
and Syria,
they went off in
went
off in a couple of countries, and Israel has not yet taken credit for it.
No,
just so everybody
CNN
knows.
gave them credit.
Yes, everybody's giving Israel credit for it. It's like, who else will do that? But it's just, it's like,
I don't know how you make that happen.
Maybe next time, don't order the pagers from Walmart.com or Amazon.
Right, exactly. Yeah, or IDF.net. What's this? It's a new pager company. What?
Or what is it? Or B&H Photography that sells electronics, which is a Jewish-owned electronics place in New York City, I believe. It's like, but I mean, it was when when I saw the story, I'm like, what are they talking about? And then there's been two stories. Well, did they put malware in to heat the battery? And it's like, And they said, well, no, maybe they attached an explosive to it, which would seem to me to be more likely than just putting malware in that would heat the battery and they'd all blow off roughly at the same time.
It would. I would think because of the way it went down, you're not going to get them to heat, like that, just all at the same time.
Unless the technology's actually there to do that and we just don't know it.
Well, because nobody in the United States has even said the word pager since 1991. I mean, it's dated technology. New York Post and typical New York Post style. Here's their headline: Paging Hezbollah, how Israel will follow up exploding beepers. So,
and one of the reasons Hezbollah uses the pagers, the terrorist organizations, is because they can't be tracked as easily as modern smartphones.
Right. They're better than burners because even burners can be tracked to a certain extent. They can be, thrown away, whatever. But the pagers, you're not going to intercept that messaging. Also, the technology now to intercept different messaging, text messaging and other app messaging. One of the things the intel community is confounded with is how they use encryption on certain apps, communication apps. If you think about WhatsApp and everything else, the intel agency here domestically is really confounded with that because they're trying to monitor things that may be going on, nefarious operations that global operations that may be going on. And I think of the pager for those under 60. Pager was. But that if you think about the technology, if you think about how we have tracked terrorists and the enemy for a long, long time, and it has been through technology. In fact, a lot of the intel gathering now comes from being able to clone a device or like a phone or something like that. Well, pagers, you're going back. You're going back to where it can't be traced or it can't be found. But here's the thing. Then tell me how in the world they get access to that many pagers. And if they are attaching a device, or is there malware involved? I mean, it's just, there are a million questions here as to this tactic and
the infrastructure needed to do this operation in a successful way is almost like a Mission Impossible episode.
Yeah, right.
When you think of, okay, what do you have to do? Because they put in an order from somewhere around the world for pagers.
Well, I mean,
because these were the ones they got in the last few months,
right,
from reports,
right,
that Hezbollah actually put in. It's like, okay, they've got to buy things.
Right.
Where are they safe in buying anything? Well, and the thing that this does is, I haven't seen a figure on it, but I know they said apparently 9 killed and thousands wounded.
Yeah.
And you look at it and you say, okay, not only do you put the fear of God that nothing we do is safe,
yeah,
but you make it so much harder for any terrorist group now over there, whether it's Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You make it harder for them to communicate with each other.
Well, that's, what you really want to do is you really want to demolish their communications infrastructure. You want to, one of the things you want to do is you want to intercept intel, but beyond that, and that's going to be at a higher level, but you're going to certainly want to disrupt their communications, which are constant and very, of course, very active right now. I'm so curious as to how you get this done. And if you're thinking of this and you pull this off, which according to CNN, this is Israel's doing, if that's the case, how in the world do you make a plan like that happen? We'll never know. Israel's not like the U.S. military at times, where they share a lot with, or you have reporters embedded in everything else. You'd be hard pressed to get that out of Israel, out of the IDF, I would think, because obviously they want to keep their tactics.
All right, who's right on this? I've seen thousands injured and dozens injured.
I saw as many as 2,800 injured is right. What the number I saw.
Because I'm reading the New York Post story, they say dozens. Now maybe that was written very early. Let me see when that was written.
Mm. Yeah, because
5:19 p.m. Yeah, because I've been reading thousands, and all of a sudden I get to this one.
Yeah,
and it says hundreds.
Yeah, I'm reading one. I'm reading one from earlier than that, and it said 2,800. So I don't know if they updated that, and then.
Okay, I'm reading here from the New York Post. Several of the videos captured outward explosions, suggesting that Israel was able to infiltrate Hezbollah's communication supply chain and implant small explosives that were then detonated via a page or a cyber-based command. How it was done remains to be determined.
Well, how in the world then do you, even with a smaller group of them, how do you do that? How do you make that happen? I guess if you've got, look, you're going to have inside people.
One thing is abundantly clear. Israel resides in Hezbollah's communications network as well now as in Iran's air defense network and has established dominance in the cyber domain and now its supply chains. Why attack now is the bigger question for Israel to reveal this level. Let me just get it here, just flipped on me. For Israel to reveal this level of penetration into Hezbollah's command and control communications, something big is likely in the making. It could be one final warning from Jerusalem to the leader of Hezbollah and to Iran to cease and desist rocket attacks in northern Israel that has displaced more than 60,000 Israelis.
Well, is it a message that, because that's the thing, they had access. So are you sending the enemy, we've got access, and this is just a taste of the kind of access we can get.
Okay, this one now, because it said dozens early in the beginning of the article. Now it says early reports suggest hundreds of Hezbollah figures were targeted, with the Lebanese Health Ministry reporting up to upwards of 2,800 people injured, 200 critically, and 8 dead. The Iranian ambassador to Lebanon also was hurt in the attack. Or hours earlier, Israel's security cabinet announced that it had overnight updated the objectives of the war to include the following: returning the residents to the north securely to their homes. Israel will continue to act to implement this objective. Given the urgency of the overnight meeting of the Prime Minister's security cabinet, we can't overlook the possibility that the IDF detected a nearing large-scale Hezbollah strike targeting central Israel.
Well, this has the makings. Basically, what it looks like is Israel gets access to the communications supply chain. That's the only way that can happen. On even if it's only 100 or so pagers. That's the only way you can do that. You find out where they're getting their pagers, and you plant those devices on them.
Which means you need the cooperation of someone along the supply chain line. To do that.
You have to infiltrate that supply chain.
Now, we know that the reason they went to pagers is because Israel has long, as the New York Post writes here, Israel's long used Hezbollah's over-reliance on smartphones to geolocate high-value targets, including senior commanders. As a result, the leaders of Hezbollah recently ordered his operatives and militiamen to immediately start using some low-tech strategies to try to evade its foes' sophisticated surveillance technology. Hezbollah began using coded messages and landlines, and notably 1990-style pagers that were once the mainstay of doctors and stock traders, as the head of Hezbollah bragged that he was blinding the IDF. Israel's Tuesday action sent a telling sign that it was not blind and that it would willingly forego intel gleaned from Hezbollah's pagers to, in effect, close the Hezbollah's eyes and ears across Lebanon, especially in the south of the border. Wow. Thus, it's more likely that not that the IDF had been ordered to conduct a large-scale operation in southern Lebanon. Forcing Hezbollah to go dark by eliminating the pagers allows Israel to set conditions on the battlefield as well.
Well, yeah, and I think on a greater scale, send messages and say, we'll look to gain access to anything and everything. It doesn't matter what you do. You can change your tactic. We're going to be there.
It does, though, make you think that when it comes to electronic communications that are sold in mass to the United States.
Oh, it's one of the first things that I think of.
From China.
Yeah, well, if you think about everything, all the controversy surrounding TikTok, right? But even before TikTok, every one of your devices has, even TVs now have the ability to listen. And so it doesn't matter if I have to say something to prompt it. Well, actually, you don't. It's listening for you to say something. Remember that. But people, it's going to be great. I can just say to my TV, play a movie. I can, and it is convenient, but those conveniences come with security risks and national security risks. And I've been concerned about that for a long time.
Well, there's two things. There's the China connection and any of our enemies that are involved in producing electronics that we use.
And the chips that go, or the chips that go in them. Yeah.
And I'm sorry to say, and in the back of my head, all I can hear you saying, I don't trust anything right now. Our own government.
Oh, that's one of the biggest.
Our own government. And that's not paranoia.
No.
It's what we have seen gone on, for example, going all the way back to the NSA.
Yeah.
And their monitoring of of Americans.
Right.
Which, again, I remember when we brought it up on the show. Remember the people that disagreed with us on that?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You can't listen to American citizens. You can't do it.
Right.
But now and that was before really we got to the real modern smartphone technology that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
And we see how that can be abused and used. And I'm sorry, what I've seen gone on at the IRS, at the FBI, and our intelligence agencies, I don't trust a damn soul anymore. Even when the Democrats or liberals are in control, I don't trust anybody.
Well, and it's especially concerning because the way that even some conservatives have reacted to the NSA thing. Well, it's just your phone records. It's no problem. We need to do this because we got to monitor the enemy. I would love to get into a Wayback Machine and go to those individuals back then, and take them all the stuff, the weaponization of the FBI now and lawfare and everything that's going on now, and say, okay, what do you think now? Because this was the potential that we were talking about in terms of weaponizing the government to get agendas done. The government shouldn't have that kind of access to us. They work for us.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Did you know that up to half of all major engine failures are due to poor cooling system maintenance? That's a lot of downtime and can cost drivers big. You expect a lot from your engine, which is why the cooling system must be a part of your maintenance routine. Here's a tip to keep your cooling system in shape and your engine running smooth. Have the system properly flushed whenever the coolant is changed. Over time, contaminants from seals, oil, and fuel are released into the system and must be removed. And remember, flushing the system with the right coolant mix and water dilution is crucial. If you have coolant questions or need an expert to help flush your system, have your cooling system inspected by a professional technician.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks for being here. Yeah, so it was, I just wonder one day if that's going to be a movie.
Yeah. Well,
not from Hollywood, though.
there is a Netflix series that was done, a limited series, and I don't know if they're going to continue it or not, but on the tactics of spy agencies, intel agencies from around the world, going way back. And I think of pagers, and I think of the old drop of like during the Cold War. We'll do a drop in the park, and they'll leave it under the bench, under the third rock from the bench. And, those types of things, and you had to communicate. There were certain things that they used and manipulated to communicate, and they had, of course, telephones, but nothing like the smartphones of today and the internet, which makes everything traceable. I mean, you can track somebody with that kind of technology. And so now going back to pagers is interesting, but I think this is clearly a message from Israel, if it is Israel's doing, that we'll have access to whatever you're doing, and we know you're changing tactics.
Powered by windmills and solar panels. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Did you see? I got to ask this question because I didn't see it yet. It may be out there. Did you see any liberal reaction? Now, Israel hasn't admitted that they were involved in this. They may not admit it.
Right.
But is Israel going to be criticized for doing this, and how? Because when you do something like this, the vast majority of people that are being injured or killed are the actual terrorists.
Right.
What will they say, though? How will the left the left has to be able to be like? Did you see Ted Cruz yesterday in the hearing on hate and anti-Semitism? And you had the guys. I can't play the audio cut because the guy's cursing left and right, and Cruz is going, "See, there's a hate right there. There's a hate right there.
Yeah.
There's a hate. There's a the left is so blatantly anti, not just anti-Semitic, but downright Jew hating right now that I would expect that Israel, may not say anything to avoid any criticism.
Right.
Well, you can't do. Remember, and I say this because remember when Trump took out Soleimani. Remember that? Remember the criticism?
Oh man, the left went crazy.
And this is where you say, well, they actually don't want us to fight Islamic radicalism. They really don't.
No, they don't.
Because
they don't want Israel to defend themselves.
So when you look at this now, and you and I have talked a lot about how to fight wars, and wars still in many wars you still have to have boots on the ground,
right?
Or you have to have a presence. And when we talked about the fact that we believe we should not, looking at what happened after 9/11. And our point was we absolutely should not leave Afghanistan. Not that we have to have a full-scale war, but you keep the air base, you keep 2,500 troops there as we had.
Right.
You keep the airport, you keep the United States presence because that's what kept kept that Afghanistan at that point slowly becoming more not our democracy, but slowly becoming more of a civilized society with the United States supporting the Afghans fighting their own war.
Certainly less chaotic.
Right. But when you look at, and so you're saying it's not necessarily boots on the ground with the Americans fighting, the infantry fighting each and every day.
Right.
It's complete, so you've got that along with what Trump said and what Israel is doing and what the United States has to do. Now, you might not be able to do it with, to risk nuclear war with China or Russia. Putin, if you don't do this, we're going to take you out.
That's a much larger scale.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you're
of course, the weapons involved, that would be a deterrent as well.
But when you're talking about what he did by taking out Soleimani, that sent a message. All of a sudden, it was like you didn't hear much, from Iran. And the same thing they're talking about, Israel right now, that Israel has the potential to take out Iranian leaders.
Well,
and that scares the daylights because as we found out with Islamic terrorism, they all claim they will be martyrs except the leaders.
No, the leaders are always, Osama bin Laden, the prime example.
Well, what we find out is the leaders of the Islamic radical movement are more hedonistic to Western Western vices than I've ever been.
Well, if you look at all the items found when the SEAL team went in Pakistan, in the house where Osama bin Laden had been living. He wasn't walking the walk based on how they recruit and have recruited from the beginning, going back to when driving the Russians out of Afghanistan and everything else, and then the formation basically of Al Qaeda in the early days, and this recruiting technique that sending flyers back then to young men, hey, if you come with us and help us fight the infidel This is what you're going to be granted if you're a martyr. Well, none of them clearly believe that. None of them believe in any of that.
Well, and as we said, even when you look at the Muhammad Atta and those responsible for 9/11, it was like, okay, we're over here. We're going to be doing something. We hate everything of Western values. Hey, let's go see some naked women.
Yeah, right.
Where are the naked women?
Yeah, they were at strip clubs.
Right.
Not the naked women. I mean, the terrorists were. They went to see the naked women at strip clubs.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you look at the. I mean, of course, naked women are at strip clubs, but the problem is the whole point.
You've had to explain this.
I just
You
for
feel like
people who don't know.
Okay.
But that's the absurdity of it all. It's and the word that a number of the 19 hijackers weren't even aware it was a suicide mission. And if that's accurate and true, then what does it tell you? That they weren't willing to be martyrs.
Yeah,
they didn't.
exactly, right.
At least they didn't sign up in that way to be a martyr.
Right.
For that mission, for that event, series of events. But it's now when you look at Iran, you look at how things, because Iran is the puppet master. They are funding everything. All of their proxies are everywhere. Taking out Soleimani was a massive gut punch. It had everybody going, what the hell? And you need that kind of gut punch. If you think about how terrorists operate, they're looking to do as much damage as they can, but also to terrorize, that's where it comes from, the minds of civilians and even leaders in military in order to, throw them off of their game, in order to keep them, wondering what in the world's going on. If this is the work of Israel on these pagers, I think the intent is not just the attack itself, but a fairly widespread, enough of an attack that it's going to certainly get the global media's attention to send a message to Iran to say, we'll get access anywhere. Just the smallest thing, which we're going to, okay, you're changing tactics here? Great. We're going to go to your supplier. We have access, and we haven't done it, but setting off pagers, quite frankly, pales in comparison to what they have the ability to do and what they actually have done with missiles. They have formidable weapons, and this is clearly something that was designed to send a message. And the message goes straight to the top in Iran. We've taken out leaders, and we will destroy your communications infrastructure. We'll control everything, and if we need to, we'll act. In a larger scale.
National Review was talking about some of the things that Israel has done. In July, Israel claimed credit for a successful targeting of one of the top Hezbollah operatives in a Beirut suburb, deemed the right-hand man to the terror group's leader. He was also one of the primary perpetrators of the 1983 Marine barracks bombing, in which 241 U.S. service personnel were killed, which brings me to this question. Why didn't the United States take him out?
Well,
in all this time, why didn't take it out? But according to the Wall Street Journal's reporting, he received a phone call, likely from a figure in Hezbollah's orbit turned by Israeli intelligence or directly tied to Israeli security services, instructing him to head to the 7th floor of the building he occupied, where he was taken out with the pinprick strike. And then they talk about this. This is, you look at this one, they go, then they mention the people that they'd mentioned. They are hardly the only Iran-backed operatives who find themselves in Israel's crosshairs. In 2020, is Iran's most prominent nuclear scientist and a member of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps was killed by an artificial intelligence-assisted remote control machine gun, as BBC noted, carrying out an assassination in such a surgical fashion against a moving target without any civilian casualties requires real-time intelligence on the ground.
Yeah.
He was one of 5 Iranian nuclear researchers who were killed in the last decade in a sophisticated covert operation with links to foreign actors.
Well, and that's it. I mean, you maximize the potential of all of the technology in order to work remotely. I mean, if you think about really the advent of weaponized drones, it came from Intel spotting Osama bin Laden. And they get word back to the Pentagon, hey, we've got him. Take him out. And they responded, well, tell us where he's going to be in 3 or 4 hours, because it's going to take that long for the weapon to get there. So the intel community went basically back to D.C. and said, we need to weaponize drones. We need to be able to, if we spot an enemy and we're given the go-ahead, we need to be able to do the deed right there. Right. And so and that seems like archaic type of technology, even though it's still available and used to some extent today. My gosh, you think about a remotely controlled machine gun. I mean, that's right out of a movie.
It really is.
You know,
but the entire goal with these terrorist groups should be, as Israel is doing, because I'm sure they had something to do with this.
Right.
You don't want anyone, any of the terrorists, anyone in operation and control to have 1 second of peace.
They do
ever.
Not get any rest at all.
And anything they do to attempt to communicate that could be their last moment on earth. Yeah. That's how you fight.
Yep.
That's how you fight the war.
Yep. And that it's going to be nonstop. And because when that confidence wanes, at some point, the question is, does it become generational? In other words, if you look at the recruiting of young men for terrorism, you got to get them on board in a way these days that's much different than they did in Afghanistan back in the day. By the way, in part because of technology, because these young individuals have access to the world and maybe don't have the same way of thinking, don't have the same mind, their sensibilities are different. So recruiting them is different. I mean, we think about young people in Iran not being happy with Iranian leadership in recent years. And why is that? Because they have access. It may be limited access compared to what we have, but they can, thanks to technology, they have access to the outside world. And that's one of the benefits of that, of technology, one of the many benefits of technology. If they are limited in how they can convince young men to take up arms as a part of the organization, then eventually the organization is gone. And hitting the leaders over and over again always has, by the way, had an effect on recruiting. Recruiting is typically down in those groups when the leaders are taken out.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. The campaign continues, and you have Kamala, who did her first solo interview.
Yeah, all right.
And parts of it, the Trump campaign was saying, here's our next campaign ad. Again, you know, the one thing is, though, the way she does talk, and J.D. Vance was saying it yesterday. He said, "We talk to you like adults. She talks to you like you're a child," and she does.
Yeah, no, she does.
And they're on the thing that the answer to every question is, well, I come from a middle-class family. I mean, it's like you can't do stupid stuff like that because the thing is, people know you're not answering the question. You don't want to answer the question. Walz did it yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, being from a middle-class family, are they trying to bring back the thing that Trump's a billionaire and they're middle class?
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
Not going to work, and it's clearly they're being coached. And so it's. I think we can call it. By the way, now we can call it Kamala-splaining, because it sounds like she's explaining everything for the first time when she answers any question.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Before we go any further, this is one of the things that ticks people off, what I have to go through tomorrow. I'm renewing my driver's license.
Right.
Now, I already have an enhanced license.
Now, in Texas, it's a driver license, and it bugs me because it sounds like I'm saying it wrong.
It's not a driver's, it's a driver license.
Look at it. Driver license.
Hey, thanks for taking me off topic,
You're welcome.
but now I got to look.
Now you got to look.
Driver license.
Yep.
I have to renew
It
my...
sounds like you're saying it wrong when you say driver license.
I have to renew my driver license. And so it's already enhanced.
Yeah.
Now, I renewed my passport. Now, I let my passport lapse. I just hadn't used it in such a long time. And I said, okay, I want to get one.
Right. Yeah.
And so I got it, and that was pretty simple. You made an appointment, went in. I think I had to wait about a week to make an appointment for my passport. I went in, and I just gave my old passport, my license, boom.
Yeah.
Didn't even look at my, didn't ask for my Social Security number, no birth certificate, nothing.
Right.
I'm not sure. Now, I believe I'm okay with my old license and my passport, but I'm bringing my birth certificate and I'm bringing my water bill.
I brought my Social Security card, birth certificate. I brought a utility bill. I brought Steven Tyler from Aerosmith to vouch for me. I brought my old license.
But as you know, when I last went in, I just went to a local DMV that was around me, and I waited about an hour and a half. I just waited. You didn't make
no appointment. Right.
There were no appointments needed.
Yeah, you just
just
give up your life for what feels like an eternity.
Now, whatever that was, 12 years ago or 14, I can't remember when it was. Then the next time you were able to just do it online.
Yeah,
and so this time I have to go in.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, but you already have all my information. You've got my license. And so now just to be safe, because my license expires on my birthday, which is just another 10 days from now.
Right.
But last time I went in 2 months beforehand. Plenty of leeway. I just didn't think about it.
Right.
So I went on. They said, no, you've got to come in and you need to make an appointment.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh,
you
no
can
problem.
still do walk-ins, but man, you're going to be there for a while.
You're going to be there a long, long time. And I didn't know this was a news story in Texas, that the the closest, this was beginning of July.
Mm-hmm.
I could not get an appointment until this morning.
Yeah, mine was set for, because mine expires in January, or would have, and it was set, the closest appointment, or the soonest appointment was late December. And I thought, oh, that's cutting it too close. So, I told you, you know this, I'll tell the audience, I made it at one of the offices that's 2 hours away where my parents live. And I got in it's like a 2 or 3 week wait, for my appointment. And because it's a small town, I was able to do that and get in. But I had a total of 4 hours of drive time on that. So, I set it for a Friday so I wouldn't be worn out. But it was, it's highly inefficient. You should, by the way, on what you mentioned, you should be able to walk into the licensing agency with your license that they issued to you, and that should be all that you need if you're just renewing.
Yeah, that's an enhanced license already.
Yeah, right.
It's already we already had enhanced licenses there, so it's already gone through that entire process.
Right.
And it's like, I better make sure I bring my old license, and I've been looking at my wallet like the last week, every 10 minutes to make sure it's still there. Got to have the old license, got to have the old license, got to have the old license, got to have the old license. Even though they know electronically that they have it, still I got to bring that. I'm bringing that, my passport, my birth certificate, a water bill. And this is what ticks people off when the left says, no, you don't need ID for voting. No big deal. And no, we'll just let people into the country. We're not going to vet them. Just let them into the country. You want to fly in from an airport over there? Just come in. Over 500,000 now have, last I saw, 530,000 have come in, through, showing up at an airport through the app and just flying into the United States. I am more vetted, and I have an electronic, what would you call it? An electronic trail. I have an electronic trail.
History,
for way over 6 decades.
A lot over 6 decades. Yeah.
Yes, a lot over
so
6 decades.
Over 6 decades.
In fact, to the point of being as far as you can be over 6 decades in 10 days.
Close to 7 decades is what we're talking here.
All right, almost 7 decades. 7 decades they have an electronic trail. Well, we got to make sure we vet you, Mr. McNamara, because we don't know who the hell you are.
You took your license test on a horse. That's what we're talking about here. Young Henry Ford was out there playing in the field.
Will you stop lying? It wasn't a horse. It was the buggy that I had to get the license for.
That was pulled
Not
by
just
a
the horse.
That was pulled by a horse. It was a carriage.
I had my carriage license.
Right.
But that's, we're laughing, but that's what gets people angry.
No,
it's like
it is so insane.
I'm an American citizen, born here, an electronic trail for almost 7 decades.
But most importantly, the license that they issued to you.
To me, right, that they issued to me is not good enough. I got to make sure, bring your passport, but, just to be sure, you better bring, because you brought extra stuff and they took photocopies of it.
I brought a birth certificate, and what they took a photo of, what they took a copy of is my birth certificate and my Social Security card. Now, I don't know that she needed to, but it's what I put up there on the counter.
And she took it, right.
And she took it, and there was some exchange of words of, you're already established as a citizen in Texas. If you're renewing, you're already established with the state as a citizen. You're not moving here from another state or from out of the country, and so there, it's a different level in terms of the burden of proof of citizenship.
But then they also need your old license to make sure that your address is the same. But then again, the reason I'm bringing my water bill is I just got it yesterday
Yeah.
just to verify that my
That's
address.
where I live.
Yeah, this is where I live now because the license, I might have never changed the address on my license.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I can't trust that. I got to make sure I bring the water bill with me. And I got the birth certificate just to back everything else up.
Yeah.
And you sit there and you go, I got to go through all this crap. I'm an American citizen. And like, just fly people in and don't vet them. And they wonder why people are ticked off.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what it's become. I joked the other day that they're just walking across the border and waving at the border agents now. Hey, how's it going? I'll check in with you later. Don't have time to stop. I mean, you've tied the hands of these agents that have been trained to vet people, at least to protect the border, and now they've been there. It's not border patrol; it's border processing. That's what they've become. They've turned the agents. They've tied their hands and turned them into processors. And
I mean, think about this.
Everything we do here in our society requires us to be vetted.
In a system where, what is it now? 330,000 children unaccounted for?
Yeah.
Think about it. Think about how screwed up that system is.
Right.
And think about how you see the mainstream media with everything, going on now in Ohio. And now the governor coming out and saying, well, no, the hoaxes are coming from out of the country. We saw that, that one, the bomb threat hoaxes, as they're calling them.
Yeah.
They're really not bomb threats at all. They're coming. It's like, okay, so you've got somebody who's trying to manipulate the situation there. But the whole point is the massive amounts of migrants coming to this country, illegal immigrants who are given temporary legal status without any vetting process at all, that may be years down the road, who disappear, and Democrats are defending that damn system.
You can develop an app to get them on a plane and get them here quickly.
Right.
You can't, within that app and the algorithm of that app, include vetting. No, you're going around it to make sure that there is no vetting.
Right. And then, like I said, it's the example of me and, hundreds of, millions of citizens of the United States.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, look, you got to prove who you are all the time.
Right.
What?
No, it's in every turn. But no,
something's wrong here.
It is the most absurd example, and I love my state. But sorry, this is government, state government inefficiency at its worst. If you're just renewing and you have your valid, not outdated, but valid driver license and you're going to the agency that issued said license to you, that should be enough on renewal. It's when you're applying for something new, that's a different process. I get it. But you should be able to walk in with your current license intact that they know is legit and renew.
And if they want to check the address, then if you did bring a water bill,
fine.
Like I'm bringing. But like I said, with everything you got, it's just like.
But even that, I mean, because they're trying to.
Right. But my problem is not that vetting system, because that it isn't that.
Right.
It's the lack of a complete vetting system. We can sit there and complain, go, do they really need all
it's not consistency.
All of that. Yeah. It's a lack of consistency. It's almost as with the TSA. Remember when they first began all of that?
Right.
Oh, by the way, my TSA pre-check.
Mm-hmm. The line is longer now.
Well, no. I finally said it. It can be.
Yeah,
it can be.
Yeah,
but what happened for me is they took out the premium lines in Buffalo.
Yeah.
If you're a premium flyer, you can't. There is no line where you can get there quicker. It's like, wait a minute. I'm special because I pay more. I thought that's how it went.
Yeah.
Because I fly more, therefore you're paying more. And it's like
exactly.
So they took it out. So they replaced it with the clear line, which is $189 I'm like, no, I'm not going to pay $189. I just refuse to do it. I go, my credit card will pay for TSA pre-check, my American Airlines Advantage card. They pay for it for 5 years. And so I went, okay, I'll do it that way. So I went in and I went into
And you fly a lot. For those that, may be new to the conversation, you fly a lot.
Yeah. And when I was at, it wasn't last time, Buffalo Airport was fine.
Yeah.
But when I went 2 times ago, I was there at 3:50 a.m. Now, Buffalo's not a huge airport like DFW.
Yeah.
45 minutes to wait to get through. Like, wow. And I was there at like 3:50 in the morning.
Yeah.
Now, the next time I went in, it was 2 people in line. I went right through.
Yeah.
That's the difference between flying on a Sunday morning and a Monday morning, by the way. One was a Monday that was busy.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I went in and got all that done and needed my passport, fingerprints, everything. Oh, by the way, I got to give my fingerprints tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
You got to give a thumbprint.
Thumbprint.
Right. So I got to do that.
Electronically.
Oh, we forgot about that, too. Got to give a thumbprint.
Yeah. Biometrics are involved.
So for the TSA pre-check, I had to, you had to give every finger and thumb. Or was it? Yeah, it's everyone. Was it? Was it everyone?
Yeah.
I can't remember now.
But and by the way, at the license office, it has to be your thumb. You can't bring one with you.
Okay.
Yeah, to be clear.
Thumbs up to that.
Yeah.
And so when I went to a local store, Staples, where they have the organization that actually does it there, I went in there, and they were pretty efficient. I got it, and she said, anytime between 3 days and 3 weeks. Well, it's 5 weeks this coming Friday, and they sent me something. You still have not been approved yet. We're still waiting. It's like they said, sometimes it can take 60 days or more. Well, I mean, the urgency that they have to tell you, dude, look, and again, I'm easily vetted. And not only am I easily vetted, if you want to talk about TSA pre-check, but when they go back in the records, because it's a federal agency, I've been vetted by the Treasury Department, Secret Service, and the FBI in the past, I think, twice each with both of them, which is definitely in the records. They know me. And it's like wow.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but the urgency, get it. All right, good. 3 days to 3 weeks. Okay, I can handle that. Now they're like, okay, it might be 60 days or more.
And interagency communications is horrible. That's another. If we're going to, by the way, the point is we have the technology on all this to have consistent vetting across the board. I understand they want to vet people, they want to vet people. How about you vet the people you don't know? How about you apply that? The technology is there. I mean, they quickly came up with that, developed that app to get people on planes.
Yeah.
Communicate,
right.
And sorry if it takes longer to get here, but vet people who are coming in.
And one more point to make on this next, 866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operators with authority generally have 2 options when it comes to sourcing freight. Brokers on the spot market or directly from the source, the shipper. As any trucker with relatively recent experience with spot freight knows, the highs of working the load boards can be really high. On the other side of that coin, however, when the market flips in favor of shippers, it can be tough to keep your business afloat working with brokers. The smallest carriers with direct customers, however, can hang on through tough times or even prosper, as long as demand for their customers' product remains at least somewhat stable. Owner-operators in it for the long haul make direct business with customers a principal goal. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And then what you look at, because you talk about the process I was talking about, having to get a license and everything else, and then driver license later on today, and the process you have to go through to do that. Yet, let's just fly people in that are unvetted from around the world.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell? But then you get, and then I started talking about, the TSA pre-check that I applied for, which hopefully will come in and get approved. Because think
Wonder
about
if
it.
they're waiting on your license to be renewed.
No. Here's the thing. Then you get to the point of what they can do. Tulsi Gabbard on the terrorist watch list.
Right.
How they don't have to
Right.
explain it to you. They just put you on the list.
Right.
So somebody who is vetted like her gets put on the list.
Yeah.
Yet millions.
She's an officer in the military.
Yep.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. So I'm looking at some of the campaigning being done yesterday.
Yeah.
First, we'll go to Trump in Flint, Michigan. All right. Here we go.
We are going to bring so many auto plants into our country. You're going to be as big or bigger than you were 50 years ago because they won't be able, if they're not willing to build a plant, we don't want their product. And that's enough. That's all I wanted.
There you go.
Look, you can get into the semantics of going, it probably won't be bigger than it was 50 years ago, but it's. But what you hear is the passion and desire to do this, and you believe it from a Trump. How he gets to that or meets that goal, we can have a discussion about. But if you hear Kamala Harris, his opponent, say, we're going to increase fracking to the biggest levels, she's full of garbage because she doesn't believe that.
Well, the one thing I did pick up on Trump yesterday, when he said a 200% tariff on any automobiles coming in from Mexico, and I went, does he understand what he's saying? Remember, who wrote the last economic treaty with Mexico?
Trump. Yep.
It's like,
USMCA.
USMCA was supposed to solve all of our problems, and you're saying it's worse than ever. Well, you're the one that made the deal.
Which means you're going to have to go in and renegotiate your deal.
Right, exactly. Now, on the other side, I noticed that they keep saying, Walz and, because, now you saw the polling, and we've talked about the polling before, most Americans are for tariffs. Fine, let's try them. See how they work.
Yeah, let me buy some stuff first. But then, let me order some tires.
Well, the big thing, because look, both sides are promoting tariffs. Both sides,
right?
That, and that's why the Biden administration kept the tariffs on China, as we know, and even increased some of them. And so that's the reason they're criticizing. If you notice, they're criticizing Trump on tariffs, but they're criticizing they were criticizing him on the tariffs he was putting that he said he would do, and then they were reminded, you guys are pro-tariff too. And so now they're saying Trump is going to put on a national sales tax. Have you noticed the change in lingo? So they can continue to say Trump wants to put tariffs on, and that will hurt the economy, and we're not for tariffs, even though they are.
Right.
And so they couldn't get away with that. So now they're saying Trump is for a national sales tax, which is actually them just saying Trump is for tariffs, and so are we, but we'll just change the name of it.
Yeah. It's madness. And, I look at that, and it is interesting what public sentiment is right now on the economy. So you look at tariffs. And if most of the American public is okay with tariffs, There's no way it doesn't raise prices.
Well,
and yet people are underwater.
No, it does one or two things. Of three things. It either raises prices, it either and I've saw, by the way, as the argument's going on, and the union members say no, it'll simply force them to move the company back here. Well, to have that massive change is going to raise the cost of your car.
Well, and you're also going to have your trade partners reciprocate.
Right. Well, that's the point. Well, I only hit point one.
Yeah.
Point one is the fact that if you say that it will just force, and this is pure economics, it's going to force all foreign manufacturers who want to sell cars in the United States to build those plants in the United States. Well, that massive shift, the capacity isn't there to do it right now, which would mean a massive retooling of all these plants, which is going to raise the cost of buying an automobile.
The supply of labor isn't there.
That's another point. The supply of labor isn't there. And then the next point would be, as you said, the reciprocation. Mm-hmm. If Trump did what he's promising, now it's 200% tariffs on, I don't know, whatever the numbers are, but they're basically more across the board. Then you're going to have massive retaliation. That's going to hurt states like Texas, because Texas exports massive amounts of manufactured goods.
Yeah,
that'll hurt. It'll hurt now.
Right.
So you've got, number one, it can raise prices. We saw with the steel tariffs, you lost jobs.
Yeah.
People that use, because the price of steel did go up. Now, did it cause massive inflation? No, but it did go up, and anybody who bought that steel that were American companies lost. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to have reciprocation, loss of jobs, and an increase in pricing. But you're getting to the point. I saw the rhetoric yesterday that, well, basically, then we should be producing all the products. Those countries can produce the products they want in their country, and we'll produce products here in the United States just for American industry. And it's like, well, you've got a market that isn't growing.
Right. Yeah, it's a number of companies have changed their tactics on where they're going to manufacture. A lot of it has to do with the supply chain and the costs related to the supply chain. And when Harley Davidson started manufacturing motorcycles in other countries, people were going, oh, my gosh, no, this can't. No. And they were saying, no, this is to sell those motorcycles in those countries. And explaining in the emerging countries, a lot of people, their first vehicle, maybe their only vehicle in their life is a motorcycle. And so they were, that was the attempt. But that's just one example of them, because of the cost of shipping, they were incentivized to move manufacturing somewhere else. Well, we can incentivize in a way that's I think, a much greater approach than the tariff approach. Because if you're looking at, if they were to, and it's not going to happen, but if they were able to put 10% tariff on everything, that will no doubt increase the cost of all of those imported goods, all of those industries, and domestic producers would, again, be hurt because those trade partners would reciprocate. There's no way that doesn't have a massive negative effect on the economy.
And somebody's probably going to do it on an automobile wherever it's made, because as we know, we've talked about this before, that how many foreign manufacturers that build cars actually were more made in America than the actual big three.
Toyota, one prime example. I mean, they build the Tundra in Texas, and it's long been the case.
And Airbus has what is it, Mobile, where they got Airbus has their manufacturing plant. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think Wall Street Journal, this goes back probably 6-7 years ago, did a whole thing on, remember, cell phones from China.
Right. Yeah.
And looked at it was like 64 different countries and 400 different manufacturers, including in the United States.
Well, Steve Jobs was at
I just want to finish it. Including like dozens and dozens in the United States. And Apple, it was on the iPhone, actually makes more of a profit on those Chinese phones than even China does because they provide the software for them.
Steve Jobs was sitting at this big tech event, and there was this dinner, and at the table was Barack Obama. Steve Jobs was sitting right next to him. And he pleaded with him, man, we want to build our iPhones here in the U.S. And, you know, we want to repatriate our global money and everything else. We wanted, look, we need the government basically to get out of the way so that we're able to bring those jobs back to we want to bring jobs to the U.S. because they understand, again, whether it's cost of shipping or cost of dealing with other countries. Yeah, the labor cost is bottomed out. But if we do everything to get out of the way instead of implementing policy, including new policy, to step in the way and punish as a result, as an alternative to a dangling carrot approach, incentivize people or companies rather to be here and set up shop here. Cheap energy is number one. A long-term policy, and that has to be done on Capitol Hill, that we're going to go after what we have in the ground, and we're going to have cheap and plentiful energy. We are the king of the world when it comes to that in our reserves in the ground. And when you have that, that's a big part of it. Now, we have a huge hole in terms of labor. But you do everything you can, and I don't mean give them money, but you incentivize companies to set up shop here. Do I believe there's going to be a massive boom when it comes to manufacturing in the U.S.? I don't, because of, in part, what I just mentioned, the refusal to incentivize and do what we do best. And that's set up an environment here in the U.S. where nobody can compete with us, where, okay, yeah, you may have dirt cheap labor, but we've got everything else and the most productive worker on the planet.
Well, you have
to have those workers.
You may have dirt cheap labor, but in the United States, we can have dirt cheap diesel, gasoline, electricity. We choose not to,
right,
through government regulation,
right.
And so when you look at those things, when you look at the technology that we have in the United States that can make every worker more productive. And I do want to find the audio clip. It came out. Did you see it was out this week? For some reason, it was out again. If I don't find it in this segment, we'll find it in the one of the segments coming up because I had bookmarked it. And it was Trump talking to Jim Acosta, talking about how we need legal immigration in this country. Now, the whole point is Trump believes that the country does not. The country does not. The country wants a lot less legal immigration.
Yeah, I mean, you could have had that conversation years ago, but right now it's close the doors, and then we'll talk down the road about legal immigration.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the problems that you have if you hypothetically could do it, if you hypothetically could tariff everything and create 50 million new jobs.
Yeah.
Where are the people coming from?
Right.
Well, then we need to have legal immigration. The people of the United States don't want legal immigration.
Right.
They don't want more legal immigration.
Right.
They want the majority. Every poll shows that they want less.
Right.
I'll find that, though, coming up here on Trump, because people don't know that. People have no idea. When we say that, people, Trump doesn't want more legal immigration. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does.
I'll find the audio coming up here. It always reminds me sort of what's his name? The libertarian.
Oh, Ron Paul.
Ron Paul.
Yeah.
When people had no idea. No idea. The most loyal Ron Paul supporters for years had no idea. They said, well, he's anti-free trade. He's against NAFTA. Because you don't even know what you... Remember people screaming at us?
Oh, man, yeah.
Well, you don't know what even... Ron Paul wants unfettered free trade.
Yep.
No regulations on anybody, anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, there would be no USMCA if Ron Paul were writing the deal.
Right. There
wouldn't be a deal between nations. It would be a deal between, hey, if you want to sell your widget overseas, then you can sell your widget overseas. And the government can't keep you from doing that. Unmanaged free trade. That's what he supported. And it was on his website.
Yeah. And most people did know that.
Right.
The supporters didn't know that.
Right.
And we would tell them, go to the website and look at it.
Right.
No, I'm not. You guys are lying. No, we're not. Yeah. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, so I've found the audio, so we'll have that coming up following the top of the hour. Plus, another Trump campaign ad, which is Kamala being interviewed again. That's what the campaign's putting out. They did it, wasn't the debate. What was it that they put it out for?
The Philadelphia.
The Philadelphia interview.
Local interview.
Yeah, it's like we're dropping our latest Trump ad.
Yeah.
And they did the same thing yesterday with a 5-minute clip of her. Here's another Trump campaign ad. But I found the Jim Acosta one where Trump said a few years back that, no, we need to increase legal immigration because of the jobs we're going to create.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because when we brought that up in the past, people would challenge us. No, Trump doesn't want it. We go, no, he does.
That's what they were discussing
Right.
moments before Jim Acosta, because he wouldn't let the mic go.
Yeah.
He hogged the mic from other journalists in that, or other reporters there, and was kicked out of that room. That made the headlines. What they were talking about didn't.
Never did.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, well, this audio clip we played years ago.
Yeah, we did. We did.
And we had talked about the fact that this is part of the disconnect that existed even back then between Trump's opinion on legal immigration and even the Republican Party.
Yeah, right.
Where Trump's for a lot more legal immigration into this country, and he'll probably be saying that again with his promise we're going to bring, tens of millions of new jobs. As we know, the labor market now, the birth rate's gone.
Yeah.
The birth rate isn't there.
Right.
Women coming into the workforce isn't there.
Right.
The baby boom is, as we know, is gone. Those are things that were unprecedented in American history, just as we got out of World War II and boom, you needed tens of millions of workers for the expanding economy when you had a GDP growing between 2.5 and 3%. And Trump has always said this, and a lot of people that are Trump supporters don't know it. He is pro-legal immigration.
Yep.
Here he is, and this is when, you remember this is the whole, I think Jim Acosta got kicked out for a couple of days after this back and forth. Here we go.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants
Not
in this
at all.
election
No, not
to
at all.
try to keep?
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. They have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign.
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
But your campaign had.
There you go. And it's something a lot of Trump supporters don't know, because when you poll the American public, they are so disgusted with everything that has happened. And by the way, they have a legitimate point. They're disgusted with what has happened. They're like, no, we don't
want to talk about legal immigration right now.
Just stop it. Just stop everything right now, and then we'll think about what we're going to do.
Well, the reason is because when you broke the border, you also broke the trust of the American people as to what kind of system would be implemented on legal immigration. Because Biden is calling this legal immigration.
Right.
Well, they're claiming asylum. You changed the rules. Administratively, you changed the rules, and this is why people don't have that trust to implement a new policy. This is why the bill, that was going to basically create a permanent hole in the border. No, we don't want to talk legal immigration right now for very good reasons, and if there's going to be a bill that gets to legal immigration, then it's going to have to be a very strict standard about who comes here. It's not going to be, again, open door policy like what Biden has in place.
And so as the Republican Party moves more populist, moves more, as we've said, tariff oriented, economics will decide how far all of that goes.
Yeah.
Both the Democrats, Bernie Sanders agrees with Trump on tariffs. Mm-hmm. So that shows you how far, how this whole economic dynamics has changed.
Yeah.
You can have the argument left and right as they're having, economically speaking, but economics will decide it, not opinion.
Exactly.
And so they can only go so far on spending on all. Everybody now is, you've got Trump in a way saying, we're going to make the auto industry as big or bigger than it was 50 years ago. That's not true. That's not going to happen.
Right.
Okay. It's a nice thought, but it's not going to happen.
Right.
And
a great goal to have.
Right. Because you talk about big, if you're talking about jobs, there's no way, not with automation. It's not going to happen. With the automation, artificial intelligence, it's not. Go look at an assembly line right now at a automobile plant and look what an assembly line was 50 years ago.
And also factor in what's coming in terms of automation.
Exactly, with AI, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, you want to keep as many jobs as possible in the country, but it's how you do it. And as we've always stated, we have the potential. Government is the impediment to a great economy. Yeah. And Trump is absolutely right on oil, natural gas, electricity.
Right.
You can have super cheap energy. That's a huge, huge attraction to companies. If you can have energy with diesel, gasoline, everything, jet fuel, electricity produced cheaper, and we can do it. We have the ability to do it. We can move faster in this country and do it and have cheaper energy with the technology that we have today. We may have higher labor costs, but all those other countries are slowly catching up.
They have to compete.
Right. And if you have, as Trump has talked about, a legal immigration system to bring in, vetted legal immigration, you can do it now. Can you do it immediately? No, it's going to take a number of years. And the problem is, if Trump's in for 4 years, then Democrats take control again. It moves in the opposite direction.
Right.
That's the problem, that you have in it. But as for the populist economic side, I'm not happy with where the Republican Party is going. But that's not why I'm voting in this election. Mm-hmm. I'm voting because we need to stop the weaponization of government. All those other things have gone on the back burner for me.
Because nothing else happens if we don't stop that. Right. Nothing else will get done if we don't stop the madness that's going on right now in government agencies and the weaponization of the Department of Justice at the top levels of the FBI and everything else. And it don't even get me started on Mayorkas and the Secret Service. All of the failures right now, if you look at it, because I look at it as national defense, under the umbrella of national defense. That's the number one goal or job, rather, of the federal government. And this administration is doing everything to shred all of that, and nobody is being, to this point, being held accountable until maybe Election Day.
Now, on, for example, tariffs on China, that's a whole different ballgame than tariffs on countries that have been friendly trade partners with us for half a century.
Yep.
Totally different ballgame with China. China should be treated differently, especially when we talk about electronics, and that's why we had stated at the beginning of the show when we talked about what allegedly is Israel. I even laugh at that because we know it is.
Yeah.
Going after Hezbollah,
right?
And basically creating mini bombs out of the pagers that the terrorists of Hezbollah had, wounding 2,800, hundreds, I think 100, over 100, couple of hundred critically wounded, 8 or 9 dead already on it. We have to, and precisely what we have to do some research on it. Precisely what do we do? Well, we're going to have after yesterday. We're going to have to figure out what we do with electronics, what we do with social media. TikTok now, after yesterday, TikTok in every lawmaker's brain just moved up to a higher urgency of what are we actually allowing to happen here. I'm not talking about bombs being created, but I'm talking about being able to monitor, being able to
access people's information,
espionage, everything else. It's a different ball game. It also may be a different ball game in industries that are necessary for national defense.
Because there's your greatest concern, right? Okay. You look at TikTok, which, if they have the ability to spy and get people's information, the devices listen. And what would they be listening for? Keywords. Well, there are people that work in high levels of government, and they may have had their devices exposure to TikTok. And you see where it goes very quickly. So on national defense and everything else, if we don't nip this in the bud now, and my concern, it's too little too late, that you can't put this toothpaste back in its tube because of, again, the ability of the enemy to spy, as we mentioned earlier, also the federal government, our own government spying on us. But there has to be a great national security concern. And then I think I sound like an old man when I say national security concern, when I think of the radicals out there protesting in favor of Hamas and Hezbollah. When I say national security, if we had another 9/11, what would the response of those radicals be on the streets of America? It wouldn't be anything like what we saw in the hours and days after 9/11. I guarantee you that it would be quite the opposite. These radicals support the enemy. So when you have that building political will, and I know it's limited, but it's loud enough to give the enemy leverage, and that's exactly what they get from it. And again, you come off sounding like a paranoid old man. Hey, you kids, get out of my yard. Turn off that newfangled device there. I don't want any of that garbage in my house. And put your tinfoil hat back on. Actually, I made them out of metal. They're not tinfoil. That's
when we were young.
But if you don't have a great concern, you should look into the technology that is available right now for spying on individuals, cloning a device, a smart device. This is old school stuff now.
Well, the reason it's too late, if you want to give reasons why it's too late, the Biden-Harris administration is ensuring that our worst enemies get hundreds of billions of dollars to attack us and our interest. And Trump stopped it. This is another reason I'm voting. That's why I said all the other economic stuff. That'll, economics will decide where that goes. When there's a negative, we're going to know. There's a negative, they're going to have to respond to it. But when you look at the fact that Trump stopped the funding of Iran and therefore the Islamic terrorist groups of Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, and then Biden comes in, oh, let's open that up again because Trump put that in. Let's give hundreds of billions of dollars, make sure that access to funding terrorism against the United States is there. That is so clear that the American public should rise up against it, and they don't care. Not one Democrat cares about that at all. That's a nothing burger to them.
Well, they
making sure we fund our terrorists, they don't give a damn about.
They argued against it.
I know.
The word fungible came into play. Oh, it's fungible. It's fungible. Iran will use the money how they want, and how they want is to fund their proxies, terrorist organizations all over the world, including right now the building terrorist state that is Afghanistan after the botched exit under Joe Biden. Those are facts. That's reality. Living in your Facebook world where you're trying to get likes and have people like you, and that's how you make a decision or form an opinion on national security, is dangerous. It's absolutely pathetic and tragic.
That's my biggest fear. When you see all that's happened, that the Democrats have okayed the funding of our enemies.
Yeah.
How can you justify that? But the American public, Republicans care. Democrats, half the country doesn't care.
Right.
They're fine with funding both sides of the war.
Right. Like you said, with the, we're going to wait for the story on the pagers and see how the liberal media shapes this to be that the terrorists are victims here, that the targets were victims.
Well, that's the point, because they've been trying to use the whole, the innocent civilians.
Right. Yes.
If you take out the innocent, and I said, look, that the innocent civilians is the excuse this time. When Trump took out Soleimani, there was outrage. Trump is crazy for doing this. So it doesn't matter whether civilians are involved.
Right.
It's simply
Exactly.
how can we defend the terrorists who want to destroy our country? That's what the Democrats care about. Because the Democrats, mainstream Democrats, were upset. You don't have mainstream Democrats. You have some, but not the majority, coming out and saying, stop it. Stop it with this stupid narrative of a two-state solution that comes from the mainstream of the Democrat Party, Harris, Walz, Biden.
You take the broken border, you take that rising sentiment, the anti-Semitism, pro-terrorist radical that is there, and you add in the technology, and what you have brewing on that stovetop is a massive threat to the United States, and I mean domestically, American soil, that quite likely would make 9/11 look small by comparison. And that's not paranoia. That's a real assessment, and you can't debate that fact.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, here is from the Trump campaign, their latest ad that just dropped. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Harris's first one-on-one interview yesterday.
It might be both.
It apparently is both. Here's part of what they say, the Trump campaign says, is their newest ad. Here we go.
It's a crying shame. I mean, my heart breaks for this community. You know, there were children, elementary school children, who it was school photo day. You remember what that's like? Going to school on picture day? Who are dressed up in their best, got all ready, knew what they were going to wear the night before, and had to be evacuated. Children. A whole community put in fear. And I'll say a couple things about it. One, I learned a long time ago in my career, having a background as a prosecutor, when you have these positions, when you have that kind of microphone in front of you, you really ought to understand at a very deep level how much your words have meaning. I learned at a very young stage in my career that the meaning of my words could impact whether somebody was free or in prison.
What do your words mean?
As Attorney General, I was of California, fifth largest economy in the world. I was acutely aware that my words could move markets. When you are bestowed with a microphone that is that big, there is a profound responsibility that comes with that. That is an extension of what should not be lost in this moment, this concept of the public trust.
Okay, and the best thing is, Scott Jennings, you saw blasting the Democrats, sitting there going, you go after Trump. You're the ones, number one, she's still promoting Charlottesville, which is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't give a damn what's the other one? To the bloodbath.
Yeah.
She's still promoting the bloodbath.
Right.
We'll get to the Scott Jennings because these are absolute lies.
Yep.
Talk about, you're saying that somebody may be a threat. You're telling lies. You're basing that on lies. You're basing the racist accusation on lies, things that never happened.
On our website, RedEyeRadioshow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here. It's interesting because you heard Harris in her solo interview yesterday saying how important it is how she watches her words. And it's ridiculous. We've got 2 points that they consistently bring up over and over again, and then we'll play Scott Jennings on CNN yesterday who says the same thing. Biden and Harris and Walz continually talk about, she did in the debate last week, talked about Donald Trump wanting a bloodbath.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows he was talking about the economic bloodbath that the auto industry is taking.
Yep.
And would take.
Yep.
That's what he was talking about.
Yep.
And then the other one is the very fine people on both sides. Both of them have been debunked even by liberal fact checkers.
Mm-hmm.
You can go and do the work. In fact, Michael Rappaport, the actor, he's the one that believed for a couple of years the whole thing, on Charlottesville, the very fine people.
Right.
He goes, and then somebody said, go read what Trump actually said. He said, I read what Trump said, and he actually denounced
the racists.
the racist.
Right.
He denounced them.
Right.
And as we know, the bloodbath was complete. I'm amazed that they're still using that.
When it's so easy to find the truth.
Right. It's so easy to find the truth on it. And here's Scott Jennings. So, this whole thing that I pay attention to what my words are because I know that things can be affected by my words. Shut up.
Move markets.
Yeah. Here's Scott Jennings on CNN yesterday.
When these things happen, and they're happening to Trump, they've happened twice, there is a lot of demands for Trump and Republicans to take responsibility for what's happening to Donald Trump. But what I never hear is Democrats being asked to take responsibility for all of the radicalization of their political base over the last several months and several years. Harris herself, I'm glad she called Trump, and I think that's good. But she herself I mean, she talks about the bloodbath, which is not true. She talks about the fine people, which has been debunked. She talks about the dictator. She talks about the elimination of the Constitution. She talks about Project 2025. She talks about IVF. She talks about things.
She's
all
quoting
of this,
Trump.
All of this, the underpinning of their campaign is to radicalize a political base, okay? And now when something happens, oh, I called him up and we had a nice conversation. So as a Republican and speaking for Republicans, it makes me very angry that somehow it's Donald Trump's fault that he's been nearly shot twice.
Yeah, but Scott,
it's not.
Scott,
what I am simply saying is that in the wake of a second assassination attempt of Trump, we seem to be talking all about what Donald Trump is doing, but we're not giving any thought to the radicalization of a liberal political base through a series of comments that came from the president and the vice president themselves. And it's not just the threat to democracy. It's worse than that. They have said, they have taken this thing about the bloodbath out of context, and both of you must acknowledge that it's been taken out of context and repeatedly debunked. But when you tell your political base, Donald Trump wants to cause a bloodbath on the streets of America right before becoming a dictator and right before ripping up the U.S. Constitution, what do you expect is going to happen? And so
There you go.
No, I mean, that's it.
Yeah. And look, the bloodbath, don't say taken out of context. It's a lie.
Yeah. No, it's a flat-out lie.
I don't know who the guy who was talking to him and said, well, it was a quote. He said bloodbath, but in a completely different context.
Right. You took the one word.
Right. You take the one word and which is a lie. When you do that, that's lying.
You're lying by omission.
You're lying by omission. Exactly. You're lying by omission. The bloodbath was so crystal clear. He was talking about the automobile industry is going to take an economic bloodbath. He was talking about economics.
Right.
Not talking about the fact that there's going to be a bloodbath, but they use that. They take it out of context. The amazing thing is the Charlottesville thing, they're still using today.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the debate, again, they used it.
Right.
And that's been debunked for years. And let's talk about this because they go, Trump's rhetoric. If he's talking about Biden, you saw we played the Hillary cut yesterday.
Yeah,
that Trump's out of control and his rhetoric's out of control. For example, and her first example was, did you see what he did to Biden after the debate? What he did to Biden after the debate?
What you guys did? Your party did.
Democratic Party kicked him out.
Right.
What do you mean? What Trump had nothing to... Trump pointed out what the Democrats were lying about, and that was viewed as outrageous speech from Trump.
Right.
As radical speech from Trump.
Right.
When he was telling the truth and the American public knew it. Tell me one thing that the Republicans have done that match bloodbath or the both sides.
Right.
The Charlottesville comments that they completely lie on. Tell me one thing that the Republicans, the mainstream Republicans, say on a consistent basis about Biden that is incendiary rhetoric like this that's based on a lie.
Right. Where is it? Where is it? And if they did that, you and I'd be the first to call them out.
Yeah. Where is it?
Where's the left calling them out? Where are people wanting the truth? Where are the people that seek the truth? Oh, there aren't any. You're absolutely okay with this. Again, we put it on people like Michael Rappaport if you bought into the lie and didn't do the research yourself. What is it you actually know? And I mean just to the extent of being able to Google it, which is exactly what Rappaport did, finally. But he admitted openly and publicly, I was wrong. I bought into the lie. They were lying about that the whole time. Where is all, and that's the thing. You look at the profile of the suspect of the second assassination attempt, and it appears this guy was all about virtue signaling. And so you apply that theory, and he believed he was going to save the world. And that applies to all of his actions, including those that he's alleged to have done and the planning of all of that on Sunday. He's going to save the world. And why is that? What do you actually know about Donald Trump? And keep in mind, he was a celebrity adored by the left until he decided to run for president as a Republican.
And think about think about the Democratic Party right now. You had Trump, who has held the same opinions, and he was adored by the left and has not changed his core opinions on anything. Now he's hated.
Right.
Then you've got Liz and Dick Cheney, who they absolutely hated, who they now love.
Right.
I mean, it's just...
Well, that's, I mean, it's laughable. But it's also tragic in that people are okay with the lie. I don't think people are stupid. You're either willfully ignorant or you're okay with the lie. And you're okay with a set of lies. And by the way, where's the requirement that you have to like somebody you're voting for?
I don't have to like somebody
exactly.
I vote for. I don't have to.
But the left has to adore. It has to be a rock star. We have to like the person. This isn't a pageant. This isn't my next door neighbor that I'm going to be living next to. This is someone who is going to be a public servant, and they work for me.
You know, I still think, and again, the Republican Party doesn't listen to us on this one, and we've said it over and over again, there's a perfect time right now to start with your long-term marketing effort to show the American public that the racists in this country and the ones that the people that actually, by their own standard, by what they call Trump, are proving that they're the radicals. It's a perfect time to do it on race, on identity politics, and for some reason, I don't know. Can you figure out why in identity politics? We've talked about this so much over the last 5 or 6 years. But what the hell is wrong with Republicans?
Right.
They're being, they're called racist, and the obvious racist, the blunt racist, the admitted racist, because they admit they follow identity politics, which is judging people by groups and not individuals. Stacey Abrams. Identity politics is good for us.
We need to do more. It's working.
Tim Ryan, who ran against Nancy Pelosi, the Democrat from Ohio, ran against Nancy Pelosi for the House in 2018.
Yeah.
Ran
for
on
Speaker.
What'd I say?
Well, just to clarify, you didn't say Speaker, but he was...
ran against Nancy Pelosi for Speaker. His main thing of running was, we need to stop the identity politics. We can't be judging people by groups. We need to judge them as individuals. We're going too far with this. It's insane.
It's racism.
It's racism, yeah. And so he knows it. They know it. And the Republicans sit there, we don't know what to do here. I need to defend myself because they called me a racist. I don't know how to respond.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
And they spend their entire career trying to prove they're not a racist.
Exactly.
Just, all you have to do is point.
Yeah, you don't.
It's not hard. Point.
You never have to defend yourself against the Democrats. They're the racists. They admit it.
Well, remember Mia Love, former lawmaker, back when she was a lawmaker. She's not really black.
Yeah. Tim Scott.
Right.
God, the hits he's taken.
Right. Well, a young white girl screaming in the face of a black cop.
Two
white girls screaming in the face of a black cop that he's a problem and he's a threat to his own race. From the two white girls, because, they know all about it.
Exactly.
They're the experts.
Well, they're the elite white liberal that has figured everything out.
Well, the whole women's rights thing, they've got that taken care of. And by taken care of, I mean put away for good. Sorry, ladies, you had your chance with sports. Title IX's a thing of the past.
The misogyny there. I mean, it's the misogyny and racism in the Democratic Party is mainstream. And now the racism has gone to the anti-Semitism and the Jewish hatred that you see today.
Right.
That is a core. By the way, we'll get to some of that hearing yesterday in the Senate on anti-Semitism.
Right.
We have to be very careful because you had pro-Hamas people in there cursing left and right.
Right.
But you had some of the Republican senators make a great point, too, saying this is only being allowed in blue states. You see red states, they're stopping this when they're not allowing the anti-Semitism.
Right.
But the Democratic Party, I think it was Cruz made the point, the Democratic Party knows it needs to keep the support of the pro-Hamas terrorist wing, the Jewish hatred wing of the Democratic Party, they view as necessary for them to win elections.
Right.
And the Republicans have to defend themselves as not being racist? Are you kidding me?
Just point.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, I saw Walz answering questions yesterday along with Harris. Look, they're worried. They're worried right now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing interviews.
Right, yeah.
What happened? Well, what are we at, Wednesday? Wow. Man, this week's gone by quickly.
Yeah.
It didn't turn out. The debate has fallen apart. The hype and hoopla of that has fallen apart.
Yeah.
And I think the Democrats are now starting to realize that as they continue to try to make you've had the governor come out and talk about that the bomb hoaxes came from overseas, which shows the influence of foreign governments into the election. They see what's going on there. That's falling apart. And now, even on CNN yesterday, I noticed that everything is because of the second assassination attempt, and you can't really defend it, is going after, the things that Biden and Harris have said.
Right.
That Biden, Harris, and Walz have said that are completely and totally false, still bringing up Charlottesville, still bringing up this, and talking about the fact that, and then hitting stuff on the economy. And so I think that, and it might have been the fact that they were everywhere this past weekend, when you had Vance on every single show.
Yeah.
And so everything for the Democrats for the last 6 months has always been this incredible hype. And then the fact checking starts and it starts going. And about 2-3 days later, the impact of it really wasn't there.
Right.
It was all based on imagery, not substance or truth.
Exactly.
That's a problem for the Democrats.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
Thank you.
I'm looking at here. Chris Cuomo now slams media and political players who have downplayed Donald Trump's assassination attempts. News Nation anchor Chris Cuomo on Monday called out media outlets and political players who have downplayed the assassination attempts against former President Donald Trump. Well, they just haven't done that. They've blamed Trump.
Yeah. Downplayed. You're downplaying by using the word downplayed.
Cuomo's reality check came during his impassioned opening monologue on his show. He said he is bothered by the reaction and lack of reaction to a second attempt on Trump in the last couple of months, and called out those who say the suspected would-be assassin didn't even shoot. What if it was your father, Cuomo asked, or what if it was Harris or Biden, God forbid? Do you think that it would be almost a shoulder shrug and more talk about the Secret Service and allocation of funds than just how crazy it is that this is what's happening in our country? Cuomo emphasized that Trump had an AK-47 pointed at him while rebuking those who have reacted by minimizing the significance of the latest assassination of Trump and the one in Butler, Pennsylvania in July. This reaction is unacceptable, and it's the second time media and political players, by the way, Democrats, it's the second time media and political players, you can shorten that, Chris, Democrats have gotten away with playing down with what should be a cause for panic. Cuomo shared that he had trouble coming up with words for Monday's show, which prompted him to talk with Trump on the phone. And you can think about what you want about Trump, and he does not have many more full-throated critics of what he says than does me, and yet I called him today because I'm ashamed of how we are responding to threats on him. When he says we, who does he mean?
The left.
Democrats.
Yep. Yeah.
So there you go. I mean,
But it, when you look at the event itself, a second assassination attempt within a few months, that has an impact. That has an impact on the election. It has an impact on our nation. But the reaction of it is everything. The reaction to it is everything. And the left media is acting like they're going to convince people that Trump brought this on. The radicals in your base on the far left, they're with you, but they weren't the ones you needed to convince anyway. You actually believe you're going to convince people that it's Trump that's responsible? They do. They think because that's their brain. That's how it works. They actually believe their own bizarre positioning on this. And as Chris Cuomo points out, the whole thing of, well, didn't even fire a shot. Oh, so you're going to wait to give him a shot at it, huh? Before you attempt to take him out? Well, no.
as I said, though, what you are seeing, though, I believe there's a couple of signs you have to look at it, and it's how people behave and the things that they say in a campaign. And when you have there's two things. There's actually three things over the last couple of weeks. First off, you knew there was trouble the week of the debate when you had Harris out there and bringing Biden with her. There was no reason to bring Biden out there. Mm-hmm. The second thing is not even a pause from the left after a second assassination attempt within a month and a half to pause at all. They were immediately pounding that this was Trump's fault.
Yeah.
Now, there's a reason to do it, and they were bringing up and still bringing up the complete falsehoods about bloodbath and, Charlottesville and both sides. That again, to me, and I know a lot of people may have been outraged by it. Maybe I'm numb to outrage because I expect it from them. This is what is expected. And also, if you look deeper, there's a sense of huge panic of them having to do that. That was based strictly on panic.
Yeah, right.
They're and why are they panicking? I believe because most people look and say Trump is so far ahead of where he was in 2020 and even in 2016.
I think so.
Right. And you see them out there hitting the economy every day. I think that trying to stick on the cat thing and making a big deal of it. And again, did you see the video that came out of the I think it was a city manager talking about back in March, the complaints from his constituents about people eating cats.
Yeah, right.
That's come out. You got Christopher Rufo who's on it. Mm-hmm. He's really the one that took down critical race theory.
Right.
Rufo.
Yeah.
He's the one that took that.
Yeah.
He's really the one that exposed that. Now, he's investigating it and saying, well, we're getting reports from people. When we talk to people, this is what we hear. And that's what J.D. Vance said. He goes, look, the media may tell you one thing. I'm telling you what constituents are telling me. And here's the thing. Does anybody believe the leftist media right now? Do independents believe the leftist media? And that's a problem that they have. But I think they stuck on the cat thing as long as they did because, again, panic.
Everything right now is very defensive mode and also panic-driven chaos because they don't know where to go. Think about this. If you're hell-bent anti-Trump and you're stuck with Kamala, who's only done a handful of interviews, and let's face it, none of them went well.
Well, one alone.
One solo interview.
One solo, right.
And now you understand. They've got and they also know that the party doesn't have any depth. This team that they put together doesn't have any depth at all. Who's the rock star in the Democratic Party? Who is it?
Right now, no one.
There isn't one. And it's certainly, in fact, in terms of people within the party that are the rising stars, Kamala Harris's name was not even mentioned. It was anything but just a few months ago, and now she's the nominee without getting one vote. Everything is not, it's not just that everything is broken. Now it's the reaction to everything being broken is bizarre.
Oh, and Ramaswamy also now going to go to Springfield and talk to the people there to find out what's going on and talk to individuals. Right. And again, he is a surrogate. He's a campaign surrogate for Trump. So even they're saying, okay, let's find out what this is about. You've got, for example, on CNN, MSNBC is gone. You know what they are. But,
right.
But CNN, you're hearing both sides. You're hearing both sides. And Scott Jennings is doing, a great job. Is doing a great job on CNN.
Yeah.
But
he really shuts it down.
Right. But the thing you see is everything is falling apart. Nothing stays. Remember the debate. Remember after the debate Friday, and remember how Thursday night she won. She was incredible, and then we started looking at the science, going, well, number one, what's the definition of she won? And I still ask this question. Tell me one issue from the debate last week or anything from the debate till now that Kamala Harris is beating Trump on.
Right.
Most of the issues, you couldn't tell me what they are because she's endorsed the great uniter, Donald Trump.
Exactly.
And by the way, I do think that Republicans, again, you've missed the point consistently on identity politics. We don't know why. We don't know why Republicans are afraid, why the Republicans are ever on the defensive, ever on race, because there's no reason that they should be at all.
Right.
But on the next point, they should be pounding it, don't you think?
It's so easy to do right now. You know, you mentioned Ramaswamy. He is clearly unafraid. J.D. Vance unafraid. Trump unafraid. When you look at Ramaswamy, he did this earlier this year. During the primaries, he went to Chicago, talked to people on the streets, and then he went back during the Democratic National Convention and did the same thing in Chicago. A little bit of trolling, maybe not. But the surrogates are doing their job, and you see everything that, again, is going on with the left and how their candidates are afraid of getting in front of the media, getting in front of the people. And the liberal media is scrambling, trying to make excuses and bullet points for them, and it's getting bizarre. They're desperate, as you mentioned. Everything is driven out of the desperation they have right now.
But I do think, though, that, like I said, Republicans don't pay attention to us and how they should be attacking on race, not ever being on the defensive. But they should also be talking about the fact Trump should be saying, I'm the great uniter. People say we needed a uniter. Well, I'm the uniter. Kamala Harris and the Democrats now agree with me. They claim to agree with me on the border, on fracking, on energy. They are agreeing on all the major issues, all these. They're agreeing with me. Now, either they're lying to you because, either they're lying to you because they know the American public agrees with me.
Right.
And so they're trying to jump aboard the Trump train and pretend they're for these issues, or I am the great uniter because I have convinced the Democratic Party that my way is the right way because Kamala Harris and Walz and Biden, well, don't throw Biden in there. Harris and Walz now agrees with all the major tenets of the Trump plan.
Yeah.
So Trump 25-25 now gets full support from Kamala Harris,
right.
Or she's lying because she knows that the American public agrees with Trump 2025, and so she's trying to siphon off some of the votes,
one or the other,
by lying to you. But he should throw the United in there.
Yep,
because it is a great point, and that kind of thing would get response from Democrats.
Yep,
they'd get ticked off at that, and you want to always put them on the defensive. But we're exactly where we were when we came in Monday, which is not much is going to change in the race. I mean, nobody expected what did change in the race was, the attempted assassination of Trump again. But other than that, everybody knows where Trump is. Whatever Trump says, he's said it before. Even in front of the auto workers. Now, in Flint, he got great response,
right?
Which was awesome. Awesome to see. And he was talking about things, whether he can do them or not. We will see. But the fact is, everybody knows where he stands. Trump isn't saying anything new. And with her, nobody still has any idea where she truly stands.
Right.
They sort of actually do, though. The independents do believe that she's not telling the truth when she says she agrees with all of these Trump proposals.
Right.
And that's the problem. If she can't get in front of a press conference and ask those specific questions, why did you change on the border? Why did you change on fracking? Because then she'll say, no, I made it clear. No, you said Biden. After Biden had said he would ban all fossil fuels, then you were asked the question, and you said Biden. But you have always stated, you have never stated until a couple of weeks ago that you, and see how she responds to that question.
If you've had a change of heart, you need to convince people, demonstrate where that change of heart was.
Right.
Otherwise, you're making excuses and trying to say your values haven't changed.
Yeah.
Sorry, It really is like dealing with a lying teenager.
Well, this would be an election. Can you actually identify the BS? Do Americans? I said this is an election that will figure out whether, and hopefully Dad will be a little wrong, that people may have gotten sick after, because my dad told me it in '69. So after 55 years of BS, Americans, are they sick of it? Because obviously we all know she's BSing us where she stands on the issues. 866-90-RED-I.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. At a roadside inspection, inspectors may ask to see supporting documents. A supporting document is a document generated or received by a motor carrier in the normal course of business that can be used by law enforcement to verify a driver's logs. These documents can include bills of lading, itineraries, schedules, or equivalent documents that indicate the origin and destination of each trip. They can also include dispatch or trip records, expense receipts related to on-duty/not driving periods, including receipts for meals, lodging, and fuel, electronic mobile communication transmitted through a fleet management system, and payroll records, settlement sheets, or equivalent documents that indicate payment to a driver. Drivers using paper logs must also keep toll receipts. Supporting documents must contain the driver's name, carrier-assigned identification number or vehicle unit number that can be linked to the driver, the date, the name of the nearest city, town, or village, and the time. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, we'll have some audio from the Senate Judiciary Committee holding a hearing on combating hate crimes, which was mostly about anti-Semitism and especially what's going on in college campuses today. We'll have a couple of audio cuts coming up here in just a little bit. You'll want to hear that. I just saw this story. Climate change. Fears about climate change are prompting feelings of shame and selfishness among people of color when they think about having children. A University of California at Riverside professor wrote in her new book. Several young adults shared these fears with the professor of gender and sexuality studies in an excerpt published Wednesday at the Los Angeles Times. The book is Climate Anxiety and the Kid Question from the University of California Press. So it almost feels like kind of shameful to want to have children, a young Native American woman named Melanie said, and they go through all the different people that they talk to, young people who believe that, no, you shouldn't have kids because it's destroying the planet. This is the insanity that the left is throwing out there.
Yep.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks for being here. The Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday held a hearing on combating hate crimes, and of course, so the majority of it was on anti-Semitism, Jewish hatred, and what's going on in college campuses today and what has gone on since last October 7th at college campuses. Let's hear a little bit from Ted Cruz from yesterday.
Anti-Semitism is a unique historic form of evil. And over millennia, it is manifested in violence, mass murder, and genocide. October 7th was one of the darkest days in human history when terrorists murdered over 1,200 Israelis and took 251 hostages. Women and girls were raped. It was the single largest mass murder of Jews in a day since the Holocaust. In the wake of October 7th, we have seen anti-Semitism explode across the United States and across the world, but especially on college campuses. As the ADL has illustrated, from 2022 to 2023, the number of anti-Semitic incidents more than doubled in the United States. But college campuses in particular have become vile incubators of hatred of Jews. At Cornell University, in the aftermath of October 7th, one student made vile threats, including statements such as, "If I see a pygmalion Jew, I will stab you and slit your throat. If I see another female Jew, I will drag you away and rape you and throw you off a cliff." A student organization at California State University, Long Beach, circulated a flyer calling for a, quote, day of resistance in celebration of October 7th. You will note on the flyer is an image of a person parachuting with a fan attached, a direct reference to and a glorification of Hamas terrorists that used gliders to descend upon a music festival and murder 260 innocent people and take many more hostages. At Columbia University, the situation got so bad that the Orthodox rabbi on campus, Rabbi L.A. Buechler, had to make this public statement. Columbia University's public safety cannot guarantee Jewish students' safety in the face of extreme anti-Semitism and anarchy. It deeply pains me to say that I would strongly recommend you return home. This was directed to Jewish students as soon as possible and remain home. The rabbi had every reason to be concerned. At Columbia's campus, individuals yelled, "We love Hamas. We're all Hamas. Long live Hamas." At the University of Washington, the granddaughter of Holocaust survivors was told that she was called names, she was spit at, she was laughed at. She said she no longer felt safe on campus, and she was told to go back to the gas chambers. This is sick and horrific. At Columbia, when Jewish students were engaged in displaying the American flag and the Israeli flag, another student wearing a mask because these protesters are oh so brave, they almost always cover their face, held up a handwritten sign saying Al-Qassam's next target. Al-Qassam is the military arm of Hamas. According to social media, this particular student is a wealthy student from Georgia. She's not Palestinian, but she has been taught lies and hatred, and she feels perfectly comfortable advocating the murder of her fellow students at Columbia. At MIT, students have reported they feel unsafe to go to class. And the MIT president has said that she would not discipline the students making those threats because if she did, they risk losing their visas and being deported. Throughout all of this, the Biden-Harris administration has been utterly absent. Does anyone doubt if the Klan were on college campuses terrorizing African-American students, threatening African-American students, that we would see the FBI there, that we would see prosecutors there, that we would see federal funding cut off to universities? Of course we would, and we should.
Ted Cruz yesterday, right after that, the protesters started cursing him, and so I can't play that part of it. But he makes a great point. Think about this. We saw the reaction of the federal government to all these things going on, which was nothing.
Nothing.
Yet FBI agents, whistleblowers, told us they were sent to school parking lots to take down license plates of parents that were up in arms at school board meetings against the radical transgender movement, and especially having boys in girls' bathrooms.
Right.
And the FBI was there monitoring them.
Right.
That's why, when we talked about just, earlier in the show, if you didn't hear it, we were talking about the fact of you can't, we about Israel and I'm sure they were responsible for the, as we call it, the pager attack, and the importance now of wondering, okay, what is the technology when it comes to the electronic gadgets that we carry? In fact, right now my cell phone is sitting at the other side of the room because I don't want to get close to it. But when you look at where these things are built and chips and everything else and what can be done in the future, and then when you look at our own government, when you can't trust anything from our own government anymore, when you can't trust our own intelligence agencies, when you can't trust, and when I say the FBI, I don't mean the rank and file agents. I'm talking about the management. I'm talking about
who control the rank and file.
Who control the rank and who control the rank and file. God bless the whistleblowers that have come forward in the IRS, the whistleblowers that have come forward in the FBI. We talked about yesterday the two IRS agents, whose reputation have been destroyed by Hunter Biden's lawyer, and they're suing him for $20 million, and they have crowdfund to get money to get a lawyer to sue a good lawyer to sue Hunter Biden's lawyer for defamation because he said they broke the law, that they leaked things illegally, and they did not.
Right.
And so you see the effort on the left, here, which is just reprehensible, but you can't trust the institutions of the United States anymore. They're all tainted. They're full of stinking rot. They're not doing their damn jobs. They're political activists, in law enforcement. You and I talked about, Tulsi Gabbard. Why the hell is she on the terrorist watch list?
She's an officer in the military.
She's an officer in the military. You know exactly who she is. She's a former congresswoman.
Because if she were a credible threat, then the American people deserve to know that she's a credible threat as an officer in the military.
Right. And she's still an officer in the military.
Yes.
Just so people know. And, and so these things that are being, the lawfare, the weaponization of government that exist here, the promotion that we see, the enabling that we see in this administration of anti-Semitism, of misogyny and the radical transgender movement. I mean, it's just pure insanity that's coming out of the Democrats. Every single day, it's insanity.
Well, and it's greatly disconcerting to people when you don't know what to trust and you're getting to the point of not being able to trust anything. And that level of distrust varies, and it's based on the individual's willingness to go along or the looking away at the lies. Anybody who dismisses any of this and thinks it's not a problem, I guess there's no way to force somebody to care about these issues. But when you look at them on the grand scale that right now that they exist, that you can't trust the FBI or Department of Justice. You can't trust Homeland Security. Because when we talk about the calling for the defunding of police, people saw the effect. They saw the effect that went beyond actual departments that lost some funding. It set a mindset with those potential recruits that would be training and eventually be on the job as police officers because they realized that sentiment was big enough against them doing their job that they just didn't have an interest in doing it anymore. So you have fewer people that want to do an already tough job. Crime's going to rise, and it did. That's disconcerting. The broken border, disconcerting. The fact that you have activists actually proudly and openly promoting their pro-terrorist position, not just on campuses, but on the streets of America, mainly in blue streets. That's disconcerting to people when you're trying to keep your family safe. And, oh, yeah, you've got to make ends meet and afford groceries and rent, too. These are things that are all on the plate right now. And when we talk lack of trust, I was just during the break looking at more polling data. I don't trust anything. Nate Silver yesterday posted in response to one of his own posts, they're lacking quality data from swing states. Why is that? Why? Right now? That was yesterday, September 17th. You're talking about a matter of weeks before the election? You should have all the quality data you want. You should have, the pollsters should be as transparent as anything right now to let everybody know, hey, this is how we do everything. This is how we gather our data.
You know, it's the same thing. DeSantis yesterday talking about the fact that, look, number one, this is a state issue. It's an attempted murder.
Yeah.
You know, with Trump.
Right.
And so he's not president.
Right.
You're not president. And so law states, we get it. But the other thing is, basically, you can't trust the Department of Justice to do their job. We can't trust.
I trust Ron DeSantis in the state of Florida. Sorry, but that's where we are.
And here's what DeSantis said yesterday. Here we go.
What kind of information do you believe that the state investigation will reveal that the federal investigation may not?
I think what will reveal, I think, is the important thing. What the state does is going to be made public. I mean, if you guys know who are from Florida, you can FOIA a lot of the stuff that's done in these investigations under Florida sunshine laws, and then they have a charge to be very frank and exercise candor with the public. I want the information to get out. I do not want any of the information kept under wraps. We're not a party to anything that happened in terms of the state of Florida government. I mean, we have been asked to help in the past on security, and we're always willing to do that. But that wasn't our primary. We were not responsible for it that day. We've not been responsible for any of the prosecutions that have been brought against the former president. So we're in a great situation to be able to look at this with clear eyes, get answers, and then deliver those answers to the public. I don't think anyone can honestly claim that the federal government has been forthright and transparent about its past investigations. That's just the reality. That's just how these guys operate. Apart from any type of political bias, that's how it's been really for many, many years. That's not how it's going to be here. And so we'll cooperate with all agency or all levels of government because
Yeah, what he's saying is you can't trust the federal government.
Exactly.
You can't
And
trust
he's
the
right.
Department of Justice.
Right. I mean, look, if Director Wray is testifying on Capitol Hill, if Mayorkas is testifying on Capitol Hill, well, they never give answers.
Nope.
They never give answers.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, this is a Trump online ad, another ad that they put together. All right, here we go. You ready?
All right.
Why is joy important to you to insert into this?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's the wrong one. I had the wrong one there. I got to get the right one. I mean, that's still a good one though. But I thought I had the one. It's what are you going to do about the economy? And it's three different questions, and she answers it the same way. I got time. Here we go. Ready? Found it. Okay.
When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
Are they better off now than they were 4 years ago? Making life more affordable for people. What are one or two specific things you have in mind for that?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid.
I grew up a middle-class kid.
I grew up a middle-class kid.
When it comes...
I have never seen a campaign that every single day can't wait for the opposition to talk to use it as a campaign ad.
On their X page, they've got a ton of stuff from the opposition.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.